There is no higher award or medal on the face of this planet than the Confederate Congressional Roll of Honor. It is equal to the Legion of Honor from France. It is equal to the Gold Medal of Military Valor from Italy. United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, they all call this highest award the Victoria Cross. It is equal to the Cross of Valor from Greece, and it is also equal to the Medal of Honor from the United States. One has to remember that when a Southern soldier received this highest award, his back was usually to the wall. Many times in battle, he was outnumbered 2-1. There were 2 million men that fought for the North. About half of that, 750,000 men, fought for the South. One has to remember that 90% of firearms were made in the North. 90% of the railroads were in the North. 90% of the boots and shoes were made in the North. 90% of the factories were in the North. Northern troops were well fed. Oftentimes, Southern troops were hungry. When a Northern soldier was killed, he was easily replaced. When a Southern soldier was killed, it was hard for him to be replaced. One Confederate soldier that received this Roll of Honor was Sergeant Calvin Henry Harris. He was killed the 19th of September, 1863. Here is a picture of my great-grandmother, Susan Roberts Harris. It was her brother that was killed at Chickamauga. Next to her, her husband, my great-grandfather, Hosea Elkanah McGee. He also was a Confederate soldier from North Carolina. This is the story of Calvin Henry Harris, how he earned the Confederate Congressional Roll of Honor on the 19th of September, 1863. The night before the great battle, the 18th of September, the weather turned bitter cold, unusual for Georgia. It was below freezing. The men, the two armies were lined up across from each other. They laid down on the ground. The ground was cold. Fires were not permitted. Did not have blankets to keep them warm. And it was a rough night. And no telling what was going through the minds of soldiers on both sides. This could be their last night on planet. They could be killed the next day, and what a horrible way to spend the night. Battle of Chickamauga, there was over 2,300 Confederates killed. And Sergeant Henry Harris was one of them. The South had a plan. They were going to allow the Yankees to shoot 2 volleys of fire into their ranks. And they did. And if you can imagine the twigs and the limbs falling, the bark falling, along with many Confederate soldiers hit the ground, wounded or killed. The plan was, after the second volley, charge. They knew how long it would take for the enemy to reload their weapons. Their goal was to be within their ranks before they had the time to reload. And this is what they did, and it worked. This led to some of the most bloody, brutal, hand-to-hand combat in the history of mankind. It was kill or be killed. You had to kill whatever was in front of you, whether it was one man, two men, three men, one on the left, one on the right. You had to kill all of them, or if you didn't, you would die. Rifle butts were used as clubs to smash open skulls. Bayonets were used to penetrate bodies and rip through flesh. Knives were used to cut throats. Pistols were used to blow holes into the enemy, and sometimes the pistol was so close it caught the enemy's clothing on fire. It was here where Sergeant Harris was killed. It was here where he earned one of the highest awards that could be given to any man in combat. After the Battle of Chickamauga, the Confederate dead, over 2,300 men, were placed on a train and carried 90 miles down the track to Marietta, Georgia, and were buried in a mass grave. There were so many killed that there was no way to tag the bodies or to sort them out, to identify them. And that's why they were buried in a mass grave. This highest award given to Sergeant Harris, 19 September 1863, was called the Congressional Roll of Honor, issued by the Southern States of America. There were 2,104 of these awards given to soldiers from the South during the Civil War. Other notable Southern soldiers that received this award, one was John Singleton Mosby, the Gray Ghost. I want to close by saying the Confederate Congressional Roll of Honor is among the highest decoration for valor of any nation in the world. And it was my honor to give the story of Sergeant Calvin Henry Harris.